Falling in love is not real, bro. It's a neurochemical hallucination. Your brain is literally drugging you right now, flooding your system with the same chemicals as cocaine, making you obsess over someone you barely know. Jung knew this. Scientists proved it. That magical feeling you think is destiny, it's just your limbic system hijacking your prefrontal cortex. And it's designed to end. Here's what nobody tells you about that incredible feeling. When you first meet someone and sparks fly, you think it's magic. You think it's fate. You think the universe finally answered your prayers. But let me hit you with the actual science, bro. Porque this is going to shatter everything you believe about romance. When you fall in love, your brain releases a cocktail of chemicals that literally mimics drug addiction. First, there's phenylethylamine, PEA, which is chemically almost identical to amphetamines. That's why you can't sleep, can't eat. You're wired 24/7 thinking about her. Then dopamine floods your system, the same neurotransmitter that spikes when people do cocaine or win at gambling. You're chasing hits of her attention like an addict chasing a high. And here's the darkest part. Your serotonin levels drop to the same levels as people diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder. That's why you check your phone every 30 seconds, why you can't stop thinking about her, why you refresh your Instagram like a maniac at 3 a.m. Scientists did brain scans on people who said they were in love, and you know what they found? The same brain regions lighting up as cocaine addicts getting their fix. You're not experiencing transcendent connection, hermano. You're experiencing a controlled biochemical possession. Your genes are drugging you, so you'll ignore every red flag, abandon your standards, and commit to reproducing before your rational brain can intervene. Evolution doesn't care about your happiness. It cares about your DNA surviving. And this is where Jung comes in with the psychological nuke. Bro, he called this state psychic inflation, and it's one of the most dangerous things that can happen to your psyche. When you fall in love, you're not just high on chemicals. You're possessed by an archetype. The lover archetype takes over your ego like a parasite, and suddenly you're not yourself anymore. You feel godlike, invincible, like you've unlocked the meaning of existence. You abandon your goals, ghost your friends, change your entire personality to match your vibe. Jung saw this in his own life with Tony Wolff and Sabina Spielrein. He admitted he was inflated, genuinely believing his affairs were cosmic destiny. But it wasn't destiny. It was archetypal possession. Now let me drop some knowledge that's going to blow your mind. There's a term most people have never heard, limerence. A psychologist named Dorothy Tenev coined it in 1979 after studying thousands of people who thought they were in love. What she found was terrifying. Limerence is an involuntary state of obsessive desire for emotional reciprocity. It's not love, bro. It's a mental condition that mimics obsessive-compulsive disorder. The symptoms? Intrusive thoughts about the person consuming 85% of your waking hours. Extreme fear of rejection. Euphoria from the tiniest signs of reciprocation. Physical symptoms like trembling, heart palpitations, insomnia. And here's the kicker. Limerence is strongest when there's uncertainty. The more unsure you are about whether she likes you back, the more intense the obsession becomes. That's why requited love feels less intense than unrequited love. Your brain is literally more addicted to the chase than the catch. And the alchemists knew this centuries before modern psychology. They called the first stage of transformation solve dissolution. Before you can build anything real, the ego must dissolve. Falling in love is that dissolution. Your identity melts. Your boundaries disappear. You merge psychologically with another person in what Jung called participation mystique, a primitive fusion where you can't tell where you end and she begins. The alchemists warned, this death is necessary, but if you stay dissolved, you'll never reach the gold. You'll just drown in the chaos. Here is the brutal truth about the crash. No matter how intense the high is, biology and psychology both agree on one terrifying fact. It is physically impossible to stay in that state. Your nervous system cannot sustain the chemical flood of phenylethylamine and dopamine forever. If it did, you would literally die of exhaustion. So, around the 18-month mark, maybe 3 years if you're lucky, the drugs wear off. The fog clears. And this is when the psychological phenomenon known as projection withdrawal happens. For the first time since you met her, The archetypal mask you glued to her face melts away. You wake up next to a mortal, flawed, ordinary human being. Suddenly, those quirky habits that you thought were cute, they annoy the hell out of you. The deep, mysterious silence you loved, now you realize it is just terrible communication skills. You look at her and think, who the fuck are you? This is the exact moment when most people bail. Bro, the dopamine stops hitting, the butterflies disappear, and the ego panics. You think, the spark is gone. I fell out of love. We aren't soulmates after all. So you pack your bags, download a dating app, and go looking for your next chemical fix. You become a serial junkie for the honeymoon phase, repeating the cycle of idealization, devaluation, and discarding until you are old and alone. But Jung would look at you and say you missed the entire point. The crash is not a failure of the relationship. The crash is the death of the illusion. When the projection collapses, that is the first time you are actually seeing the real woman in front of you. And here's the paradox that will change your life forever. Real love cannot begin until the illusion of falling in love dies. The death of the fantasy is the birth of the truth. If you run now, you are running from the only thing that actually matters. So how do you actually build something real when the drugs wear off and the ghost disappears? The answer is so simple but so hard that most men never do it. You don't fall in love, Hamano. You rise in love. You don't passively wait for a feeling to hit you like a truck. You build it with your bare hands, brick by boring brick, when the feelings aren't there at all. This is the alchemy of conscious choice. When the projection collapses and you finally see the real her insecurities, her trauma, her annoying habits, her fear, you don't run. You choose her anyway. Jung called this the hieros gamos, the sacred marriage. But it's not a wedding. It's the moment when two whole individuals, not two halves looking for completion, consciously choose to unite their paths without losing their identities. You pull your projections back. You stop expecting her to be the goddess of your soul, the mother you never had, or the savior of your inner child. You look at her and say, I see you, you are human, and I am staying. That's not a feeling, bro. That is an act of will. That is the ultimate masculine power. The capacity to commit to reality instead of fantasy. This is the ultimate test, brother. Will you keep running after the high of falling, or will you stand your ground and build something real when the illusion dies? Stop waiting for destiny. Start creating it. Real love is a choice you make every single day, not an accident you fall into. If you're ready to kill the fantasy and do the work, subscribe. We're building the true self next. Stay dangerous. We're out.